Hello and welcome to the 10-Minute Manager. In this tutorial we'll show you how to set up your company file so you can commence working with the 10-Minute Manager. On the screen now you can see we have two files. We have the 10-Minute Manager main program and the 10-Minute Manager registration key. It's important that both of these files are in the same folder or directory to be able to use the 10-Minute Manager. Let's begin this tutorial by double-clicking the 10-Minute Manager main program. Okay. And this brings us to our first screen. What we want to do here is click the arrow to proceed. We go on to a quick word of caution. It's important that you always consult a certified practicing accountant regarding your business profitability. The 10-Minute Manager is purely a business management tool, and for that reason it should never be wholly relied on for business reporting details. Let's click next to continue. On this screen we have our license and non-disclosure agreement. It's important that you do read this agreement, and when you get to the bottom, enter your company name in to accept the terms and click next to move on. So let's say ABC company. Let's click next. Okay, now that we're setting up, what we'll enter into the first field is the name of our company, ABC company. The site name, let's say it's City Center Store, and the ABN 123456789. Let's click next to move on. Okay, in step 2 we set up all of our employees and their hourly rates. Okay, so let's begin by putting in our employee names: John, Joe, Josie, Jay, Jim and Jerry. Let's enter in their normal rate of pay. Their normal rate of pay in this instance we'll say is $20 for each of them. Okay, if you're ever not sure what to enter in any particular field, have a look for the little red arrow in the corner of your fields, and that will give you an indication of what to enter. So in this instance we pay John $20. The Sunday rate and Saturday rate and public holiday rate is automatically calculating. The one element that you need to consider here is the category of employment, whether or not they're full-time, part-time or casual, as this will alter their entitlements. In this instance you can see that John's full-time, we'll leave that the way it is. Joe's part-time, Josie, Jay, Jim and Jerry are all casual, so we'll leave that the way it is. If you do need to change that, it's FT for full-time, PT for part-time and obviously C for casual. Let's click next to move on. Step 3 asks for our additional wage expenses. Here what we enter is our superannuation rate. In this instance it's 9%. The sick and annual leave, as well as annual leave loading rate, which we've calculated in this instance at 0.1153845. And your total work cover levy, which again you'll need to get from work cover. We click next to move on. Step 4 is requesting our fixed overheads. Now this is probably the most important part of setting up this program, as this will actually show the greatest variation from your true figures. What we're actually doing here is we're estimating what our weekly rent will be, what our weekly electricity, gas, insurance, telephone and internet, advertising and water will be. The best way to actually do this is to go over your previous records. With a bit of luck you'll have at least 12 months worth of records. If not, do the best you can to guess what your weekly expenses will be and average them out. Okay, the more fixed overheads that you can enter into this area, the more accurate your results will be. We've only given you a few as an example here. So we've got rent, electricity, gas, insurance, telephone, internet, advertising and water, but no doubt you would have some more expenses that should probably be entered in there. Things like leased items and whatnot. When we do enter them, we put our cost less GST and our GST amount next to that. So in the case of electricity, which you can see here, electricity is $400 exclusive of GST plus $40 GST. Just off to the side here we also have an allowance for franchise fees. If you're charged a percentage of your gross turnover, please enter that percentage amount there. Otherwise, if it's a fixed franchise fee, please enter your fixed franchise fee amount in here, and also make note of the GST amount. Please note here that we've already entered in a few of these details for examples purposes. Let's click next to move on. In step 5, we make a list of all of our known suppliers, and we've got a few examples here. It's very important that all your suppliers are listed here, because on a daily basis you'll be entering the invoices that you receive from these suppliers. Let's click next to move on. Step 6, we'll enter in our revenue centres. In the instance of a cafe, we would have revenue that comes from the cafe, perhaps revenue from catering, and we may have a bar attached to the cafe as well, so we'll enter in bar there, and then we move on. Step 7 asks how many days we will be trading for. Generally speaking, a lot of businesses trade either 5 or 7 days. There are a few that trade 6 days also. So please make a note of the amount of days that you'll be trading for and click next. Step 8, we set our key performance indicators. For example's sake, we've entered in 25% of your net turnover for wages, 20% for your overheads, 35% for your materials, and we're aiming for a 20% profit against our net turnover. These should be reviewed on a regular basis, and you should make your managers aware of what these key performance indicators are, so as to make the most of the 10-minute manager. If we click next, that should set up our 10-minute manager. If ever you need to make any changes to that initial setup, you can easily return to that setup page by clicking setup here. And the only way to exit the setup is to run through the whole process by clicking next, and that will return you back to the main menu of the 10-minute manager. That concludes our tutorial on how to set up the 10-minute manager. In our next tutorial, we'll be discussing creating a roster.